Hi, it is me, Pinky Orange Girl again, and before we get into the video, I will finally review what was this big surprise I was promising about. And here it is in 3, 2, 1. Now I have my own Inkling avatar, which means I'm officially a Splatoober, if you like it or not. If you want to support me, make sure to like and subscribe, follow my Twitter, join my Discord server, and comment if you like my avatar. And if you don't, what's wrong with you? Anyway, you have read the title of the video, so let's analyze how both the Inklings and Octolings have changed throughout the franchise. But let's first take a look at my preferred species. Racism! The first image I will take a look at is from Roach on Twitter, and I will link them in the description. First, we're gonna discuss the obvious changes, like for example their height. If we draw a straight line above the Splatoon 1 Inkling's head, you will see that both Splatoon 2 and 3's heights don't match with Splatoon 1. I mean, this guy's height is where is this guy's eyebrow. So yeah, pretty obvious. We also notice how their neck seems to grow with their height and it becomes more visible to us. Their legs become taller as well as their arms. No, not these arms. And their bodies are smaller. So these are the most obvious changes, and it's understandable why they are, because this is how we grow up. It's no surprise Nintendo took what part of our bodies grow and changed the most, and they applied it here. And it's great. This shows us how much time has passed between each installment of the series and how Inklings grow up with the players together. Let's look at the more subtle changes. Their head seems to get tighter in each game. And what do I mean by that? Well, in the first game, an Inkling's head was so wide they look like mascot heads. But in later entries, their head proportions became a little bit more realistic. Not by much, just a little bit, than before. Going from a mascot head to a head. A normal one, mind you. The tighter the heads became, the eyes also were going tighter as well, obviously. I mean, if the eyes stayed the same, they would go outside of the head, and that would be horrifying. You may think to yourself, wait, I think their eyes are getting wider. And I can see your point, but that's just an illusion. You see, the eyes in the first game are wide, but not as wide as the head. But in the third game, sorry Splatoon 2, it's almost just as wide as the head itself. But we already established that the heads are getting tighter with each game. Therefore, the eyes are just a bit tighter than in the first game. You may not see it yet, and that's why it's called subtle. And speaking of subtle, let's look at other subtle changes. Did you know that the shape of their legs is different in each game? And I can prove it to you by sketching over the legs to see for yourself. But it's interesting how the Inkling from Splatoon 2 has the most thin legs out of all, which is strange, but I could be wrong about that. Let's do the same thing for the arms as well, and I really thought that Nintendo changed their arms, but analyzing it more, I noticed they're basically the same. They look different because of an illusion. Illusion is becoming a theme in this video, isn't it? And by camera shots, the arms look slightly different. What about their hands? Well, there are actual changes, especially to the fingers. In Splatoon 1 looking so blocky they came from Minecraft, Splatoon 2 ones looking somehow the most realistic but still blocky. Still blocky, mind you, but not as much as Splatoon 1's hands. And in Splatoon 3 looking like Mr. Krabs Crows. Or maybe it's because of the pose, I don't know. Well, how about their sweet and tasty feet? I'm hungry for feet. I don't think they changed the feet in any way, but if you notice something about the feet, let me know in the comments below. Their hairstyle is the same, but in Splatoon 3 this hairstyle is lower than in the previous two games because of the more realistic approach to the physics. That's why they bent down. Physics. Now, I will take another photo from the legendary me. Now I actually took screenshots from a YouTube video by Ray Valentino, who I will also link in the description to check their channel. Why did I take another photo instead of using the same one from Roach? Well, it's simple. There's something you can't see in the first photo, which is gonna be the thing that I will analyze for just a bit. Pay close attention to the Inkling from Splatoon 1's tentacles, so you see these spots. Well, they're darker up there, but going down they're lighter, even the same shade of green as the tentacles on the upper side, while the tentacles being the darkest on the end, giving a nice sense of contrast. The Inkling from Splatoon 2 is a different story. Just like with the Splatoon 1 Inkling, the end of the tentacles are the darkest part, but the spots are bigger and easier to read and use the same shade of pink, with Hot having darker spots on the upper side of the tentacle, giving the illusion that those tentacles glow, and it's my personal favorite design choice out of all the three. The Splatoon 3 Inkling, on the other hand, uses a completely different color than the rest of the tentacle, and having both small and big spots, not just big spots like in Splatoon 2. I don't know if people ever noticed this change, but I think it's one of the coolest in my opinion. Okay, let's get back to the previous photo to take a look at the most subtle changes. For starters, I noticed their standard face looks kinda different, specifically in the noses and mouths. I don't have anything else to say about it, just look the differences yourself. And the next change is gonna be the last one, and then we will take a look at the Octolings. This change is so subtle, I haven't seen anyone else talk about it online. Pay very close attention. So here is the bridge between the two eyes of the first Inkling from Splatoon 1, and while this bridge connecting with the eyes looks like the infinitive sign, they have become pretty iconic over the years. Now I can't see the Incredibles the same way again. Now that I drew over the quote-unquote mask, it looks like goggles. No, not these goggles. Perfect. Also, the Splatoon 2 Inkling, the bridge between the eyes is a lot longer and thinner, kinda looking like a long hourglass. Oh yeah, I almost forgot to mention that the Splatoon 1 Inkling actually has a thin black line on top of the very eye, but in Splatoon 2 this line was completely removed, and something Splatoon 2 added extra space for the pupil or eye, I don't know, and the black around the eye is also slightly thinner than in Splatoon 1. How did Splatoon 3 approach the mask? Well, the bridge is the smallest and is a little bit thicker than in Splatoon 2. But good god, I thought Splatoon 1 was supposed to be grand and big, while we have a bridge smaller than my vagina. Okay, let's get back to being serious. In Splatoon 3, the little black line over the eye that was missing in Splatoon 2 came back! I said let's get back to being serious! Anyways, Splatoon 3 brought back the more space for the eye, which is neat. Anyways, let me know in the comments which Inkling design do you like the most. In my opinion, my favorite is Splatoon 3's one, not only because they look like teenagers, but also from the more noticeable changes to the more subtle. I think they look the freshest and again the most like teenagers. I mean, they're 14, so obviously they have to look like teenagers. Now, let's move on to the Octolings. So the image I'm gonna use is from Celestial Cutie on Reddit. I will try to link their account in the description even if I don't have Reddit. If it doesn't work, well, here it is, if you want to find it. And yes, I'm not gonna include Splatoon 1 Octolings for two reasons. One, they weren't playable yet, at least officially, and two, they look very different from the playable Octolings, even having different octopus forms. How are they the same species, Nintendo? So I'm not gonna bother pointing out the same changes that were made for the Inkling redesigns. Instead, I'm gonna point out the unique changes specifically made for the Octolings. By looking at the pictures, how many changes do you see? So, I see different clothing, even if those two Octolings have the same hairstyle. On the Splatoon 2 one, the tentacles are wider and more voluminous than the Splatoon 3 ones, and also the ants are thinner than in Splatoon 3. I honestly prefer the voluminous tentacles in Splatoon 2 than the more realistic weight approach in Splatoon 3. I mean, look, this tentacle is getting in the way of their face, like, help them before they go blind! And you're probably asking, why do I prefer the tentacles in Splatoon 2 than in 3? Well, my dear viewers, it's because in 2 they look more like the tentacles of an octopus. Not to say in Splatoon 3 the tentacles look like human hair, but what I am saying is octopods live underwater, therefore there aren't any physics related to their tentacles, and even if they had the same physics as our limbs, then this is how I imagine it to look like, not like that. Okay, let's move on. Just like with the Inklings, it's now easier to see their neck. I don't know why did I draw that, like it wasn't mentioned before, but whatever. So we see in Splatoon 3 their face is circular, and also in Splatoon 2, but the difference is in Splatoon 2 is a lot more clear and a bigger circle than in Splatoon 3, while in Splatoon 3 is more of a squished circle. I don't know, this is how I see it. I don't know which circle I prefer, unlike with the hair physics, so I will just move on. I don't know where I was going with this, but yeah, let's just move on. Splat My Bills 3 and the end of their eye is a little triangle to remind you that they aren't humans, and to the other side a more visible and bigger triangle, while in Splat My Taxes 2 it really isn't a triangle and it's instead like a CAD line, and on the other side there's pretty much nothing of. I mean, with this CAD line it looks like more like makeup than like a part of the eye. So, congratulations Splat Team 3, you finally made changes that I prefer over the original design. I noticed that the space from the mouth to the chin is different. In Splatoon 2 is a very long distance. It's basically the same distance as from Spain to Antarctica. What the? In Splatoon 3, the distance is like from Japan to China. What? I also want to point out the mouths are different, not only in size but also in shape. Quick side note, with this face and hairstyle, this Octolink gives me Karen energy, and I don't know why. They looked so pissed off, it's like they don't even want to be there. Now, here's the second time I will compliment Splatoon 3's design, because in Splatoon 2, in the front view of the Octolink, we don't see the ends of the tentacles on the back, while in 3 you can see them, and not only that, but there's even a little space between the front and the back tentacles. Congratulations Splatoon 3 Octolink, and be happy, don't be a Karen. The next change is a very strange one, and it's with the eyebrows of all things. So in Splat My Nuts 2, the Octolink's eyebrow is shaped like a teardrop, while in Splat Shiver 3, the eyebrow is shaped like a whistle. I think I prefer the teardrop. And now, for the final change we're gonna take a look at. And it is... their ears! I know, it's very non-climatic ending to Fighting the Changes saga, but let's take a look at it anyway. So the funny thing is that, considering how the tentacles in Splatoon 3 are less voluminous, you would think the ears will be bigger than in Splatoon 2, but no, they're smaller instead. So that's it for this video. Make sure to like and subscribe, follow my Twitter, join my Discord if you want me to be a Splatoober. I will see you next time.